First contact with Death World. Senior botanical researcher Zira adjusted her atmospheric filters as she guided her research vessel through the outer reaches of an unexplored solar system. Her crystalline body refracted the starlight, casting tiny rainbows across the ship's control panel. This was supposed to be a routine survey mission, catalog potentially habitable worlds, document unique flora, and move on. But something about the third planet from this unremarkable yellow star had caught her attention. Curious, she muttered, her translucent fingers dancing across the holographic display. Computer, verify these readings. The ship's AI responded with a soft chime. Confirmed. Planet exhibits extreme variations in temperature, atmospheric pressure, and gravitational forces. Classification, Death World, Category 3. Warning. Landing not recommended. Zira's crystalline structure vibrated with excitement, creating a gentle harmonic tone. On her homeworld, such conditions would be impossible for life to exist. Yet the preliminary scans showed not just life, but an abundance of it. Billions of different species, complex ecosystems, and most intriguingly, signs of advanced civilization. Computer, focus scanners on biological signatures, particularly plant life. The data streams flooded her consciousness through her neural interface. Plants that survived in frozen wastelands, vegetation that thrived in scorching deserts, species that adapted to extreme pressure variations. It was unprecedented. Her scientific curiosity overwhelmed her caution, initiating closer orbital paths for detailed. The ship lurched violently. Warning signals flashed across every display. Warning. Magnetic field interference detected. Engine stabilization failing. Zira's crystalline form resonated with alarm. Computer, emergency protocols. Unable to comply. Critical system failure. Atmospheric entry imminent. The ship plunged toward the planet's surface, its hull heating rapidly. Zira activated her personal protective field, knowing it wasn't rated for these conditions. Through the viewport, she watched in horror as the ground rushed up to meet her. The impact was devastating. The ship's outer hull cracked, emergency systems barely managing to keep the vessel intact. When the dust settled, Zira found herself in a dense forest, surrounded by towering organic structures she would later learn were called trees. Her damage assessment was interrupted by a deep, rumbling sound that shook her crystalline form to its core. Thunder. She accessed her database, electrical atmospheric discharges common on death worlds. But knowing the scientific explanation did little to calm her nerves. The first droplets of rain hit her ship's damaged hull with an ominous patter. Zira watched in fascination as the water accumulated, creating rivulets that streamed down the viewport. On her homeworld, such freely flowing water would be considered a catastrophic event. Computer, status report. Hull integrity at 47%. Life support stable. Engine core, offline. Communications, offline. Estimated repair time, 72 local planetary rotations. Zira's crystalline structure dimmed slightly, their equivalent of a sigh. Begin emergency repairs. Activate camouflage systems. As the ship's remaining functional systems hummed to life, she began documenting her surroundings. The air pressure alone would crush most species she knew. The temperature fluctuations would shatter any crystalline life form. The radiation from the nearby star should make complex life impossible. Yet, a small creature, her database identified it as an squirrel, scampered across a branch near her viewport, completely unconcerned with the supposedly lethal conditions. In the distance, she could see lights through the rain. Artificial structures. Computer, those lights. Signs of civilization. Affirmative. Detection of artificial electromagnetic emissions consistent with technological society. Warning. Species classification unknown. Recommend maintaining isolation protocols. Zira's scientific training told her to stay hidden, wait for repairs, and leave. But as she watched another lightning bolt illuminate the sky, she felt something she'd never experienced before. an emotion her species rarely acknowledge. Adventure. Computer, begin detailed scanning of local life forms. We might be here a while, and I intend to learn everything I can about this death world and its inhabitants. As the rain intensified and night fell, Zira settled in for what would become the most extraordinary research opportunity of her career. She had no way of knowing that she had crashed on humanity's homeworld, or that this accident would change the course of galactic history forever. The human settlement. 3 planetary rotations had passed since Zira's crash landing. Dawn broke over the forest, casting long shadows through her ship's viewport. She had spent the time documenting everything: the cyclic temperature changes, the diverse ecosystem, and most fascinatingly, the distant signs of civilization. Computer, replay last night's surveillance footage. The holographic display flickered to life, showing thermal images of large metallic objects moving along designated paths, what her computer identified as vehicles on roads. The technology level was both primitive and ingenious. No anti-gravity, no fusion drives, yet these beings had managed to create a complex transportation network despite their planet's harsh conditions. Fascinating, Zira murmured, her crystalline form shifting colors with interest. They've adapted to rather than overcome their environment. A warning chime interrupted her observations. Alert. Unidentified biological entity approaching ship perimeter. Zira quickly activated the external cameras. Through the morning mist, she saw it, a bipedal creature moving with purposeful strides through the forest. Her first clear view of a human. The being was tall, wrapped in artificial protective layers, carrying what appeared to be some kind of tool. It moved with a confidence that seemed impossible on such a high-gravity world. Zira's sensors indicated the human's internal temperature was maintaining a steady 37 degrees Celsius, a feat of biological engineering that would have won awards on her home world. Computer, are they aware of our presence? Negative. Camouflage systems functioning within parameters. However, recommend reduced power usage to minimize detection risk. The human paused near the ship, examining something on the ground. Zira realized with alarm that her crash landing had left more traces than she'd thought. The being knelt, touching the scorched earth with bare appendages. Another shock to Zira's scientific sensibilities. Direct contact with soil would be lethal on most worlds. They're resistant to biological contamination, she noted in her research log. Adaptive immune system, perhaps. No, something more sophisticated. The human stood, produced a small device, and began speaking into it. Zira's translation matrix worked frantically to decode the language. Strange markings out by the old Miller property. Might be worth checking out. Over. Another voice crackled through the device. Copy that, Dave. Probably just those teenagers again. Keep an eye out, though. Over. Zira watched in fascination as the human, Dave, made several recordings with another device, then continued his patrol. His casual dismissal of the unusual signs spoke volumes about human psychology. They lived on a death world, yet treated its dangers with remarkable nonchalance. As the day progressed, Zira's observations painted an increasingly complex picture. Humans moved through lethal temperature variations without environmental suits. They casually handled substances that would dissolve most species. They even willingly ingested chemicals that her computer classified as toxins. Computer, revised species threat assessment. Processing. Warning. Insufficient data for accurate threat assessment. Observed capabilities exceed standard classification parameters. Zira's crystalline form pulsed with excitement. Exactly. They're not just surviving here, they're thriving. But how? Her questions multiplied as she watched the settlement through her ship's sensors. Humans constructed buildings that defied the planet's severe weather. They harnessed electricity despite the constant electromagnetic interference from their atmosphere. They even kept other species as companions, displaying a level of biological manipulation that hinted at deep scientific understanding. But it was their social interactions that truly captured her attention. They gathered in groups, engaged in what appeared to be recreational activities, and displayed complex emotional behaviors, all while surrounded by conditions that should have made basic survival their only priority. As night fell again, Zira made a decision that went against every protocol in her training. Computer, begin analysis of local communication networks. I need to understand their information systems. Warning. Active scanning may increase detection risk. Acknowledged. But these beings, they're not just another species to catalog. They're something entirely new. The computer hummed compliance, and streams of data began flowing through Zira's neural interface. Human entertainment, news, scientific databases, a flood of information that both amazed and confused her. A particular transmission caught her attention. Children learning about space exploration, the innocence with which they discussed venturing into the cosmic void, as if the harsh conditions of space were merely another challenge to overcome, struck her deeply. They don't even realize, she whispered. They don't know they're living on what the rest of the galaxy would consider uninhabitable. Which means, her thought was interrupted by another warning chime. Alert. Ship repairs at 43%. Critical systems still offline. Local atmospheric disturbance approaching. Through her viewport, Zira watched storm clouds gathering. But this time, instead of fear, she felt something else. Curiosity about how the humans would handle this latest demonstration of their world's ferocity. What she would witness would challenge everything she thought she knew about survival, adaptation, and the true meaning of intelligence. Survival and discovery. The storm that night proved catastrophic for Zira's damaged ship. Lightning struck a nearby tree, sending it crashing through her vessel's already compromised hull. Emergency containment fields flickered as rain poured into the breach, threatening both her crystalline form and the ship's delicate systems. Computer, status report. Her voice resonated with harmonic distress. Critical system failure. Hull breach detected. Emergency power at 12%. Repairs. Impossible without external intervention. The situation was dire. Her species' natural aversion to water wasn't just cultural. Prolonged exposure would dissolve her crystalline matrix. Yet staying meant certain death as her ship's systems failed. A sound cut through the storm's fury. Voices. Human voices. Hey, did you see that lightning strike? There's something weird in those trees. Dad, look. The light. It's not normal. Zira's worst fear had materialized. Her ship's camouflage systems were failing, the energy signature now visible through the rain. 2 humans, 1 adult, 1 juvenile, were approaching through the underbrush, their artificial lights piercing the darkness. Computer, options. Calculating. Survival probability without assistance, 2.3%. With human intervention, unknown variable. Zira's crystalline structure vibrated with decision. First contact protocols existed for a reason, but they hadn't anticipated crash landing on a death world. She made her choice. Computer, disengage remaining camouflage. Activate universal translator. The humans reached the clearing. Through the rain, Zira could see their expressions change from curiosity to astonishment. The adult, a male wearing what appeared to be protective gear, pushed the younger one behind him. Sarah, stay back, he said, though Zira noted his voice held more wonder than fear. Zira activated her ship's external speakers. Please, I require assistance. The human called Sarah darted around her father, eyes wide with fascination. Dad, it's hurt. We have to help. What followed challenged every preconception Zira had about primitive species. The humans, despite their obvious shock at encountering alien life, approached the problem with remarkable practicality. The adult, who introduced himself as Mike, quickly assessed the situation and began organizing a response. Sarah, get the tarp from the truck. We need to cover this breach before more rain gets in. He spoke into his communication device. Linda, honey, remember that workshop we never use. Clear it out. We've got a situation. Within hours, Zira found herself and the critical portions of her ship carefully transported to a human structure. The workshop was crude by galactic standards, but it was dry and secure. Mike, she learned, was an engineer, though his understanding of technology seemed impossibly primitive, yet strangely innovative. Your ship's power system, he mused, examining the damaged core through protective goggles. It's like nothing I've ever seen. But the principles, they're not completely foreign. Sarah, the younger human, proved equally surprising. While Mike worked on adapting human power tools to repair the hull breach, she bombarded Zira with questions that displayed remarkable insight. If you're made of crystals, is that why you were scared of the rain? Does your planet not have water? How do you eat? Can you change colors on purpose, or is it like mood rings? Each question revealed not just curiosity, but an intuitive grasp of scientific principles that seemed beyond her years. Zira found herself engaged in lengthy explanations, each answer leading to more questions. Your species, Zira ventured during a quiet moment, you live here, like this, all the time. Mike looked up from his work, confused. Like what? These conditions, the gravity, the temperature variations, the atmospheric pressure. Sarah laughed. That's just normal. Wait, are you saying we live on a hard mode planet? The phrase hard mode took Zira's translator a moment to contextualize. But when it did, the implication staggered her. Humans didn't just survive here. They had evolved here, shaped by every brutal aspect of this death world. Their bodies weren't just adapted to these conditions. They were built by them. As she watched Mike improvise repairs with primitive tools while Sarah sketched surprisingly accurate diagrams of her ship's systems, Zira realized she wasn't just observing an intelligent species. She was witnessing the product of evolution on the most challenging crucible she'd ever encountered. Computer, she whispered when the humans stepped out for supplies. Revise earlier assessment. These beings, they're not just surviving the death world. They are its masters. The implications of this realization would shake the foundations of galactic society. But first, Zira had to survive her time among these remarkable beings and ensure they survived knowing about her. Understanding humanity. 3 weeks into her stay with the human family, Zira experienced something that would forever change her understanding of humanity. It started with what the humans called a town hall meeting, an event that nearly exposed her existence to the entire settlement. Mike's workshop had become a sanctuary of discovery. While he and Sarah helped repair her ship, Zira had been carefully documenting everything about human society through their family's interactions. But on this night, their small haven was threatened. There's no choice, Mike explained, his voice tense. The town's planning commission wants to inspect all outlying structures. Something about new zoning laws. Can't you just tell them no? Zira's crystalline form flickered with anxiety. Sarah, now trusted with keeping Zira's presence secret, spoke up. Dad, what if we show them? Maybe it's time. Zira's learned so much about us. Maybe others should learn too. The suggestion sent ripples of color through Zira's form. The protocols. My people have strict rules about first contact. Mike sat heavily on a workbench. So do we in theory. But theory's never quite ready for reality, is it? Before they could discuss further, Linda, Mike's wife and Sarah's mother, burst into the workshop. They're coming. Now, what happened next demonstrated a side of humanity Zira hadn't yet witnessed. The family moved with coordinated efficiency, like a well-oiled machine. Sarah quickly helped Zira into a concealed compartment they'd prepared for emergencies. Mike rearranged his tools to hide any alien technology. Linda met the inspection team at the door with a calm demeanor that betrayed none of the chaos within. Through a small gap, Zira watched the human officials enter. Their casual discussion of regulations and safety codes seemed absurd given what they were unknowingly standing next to. But it was what happened after they left that truly opened her eyes to human nature. The family gathered in the workshop, relief evident in their postures. Then Sarah began to giggle. The sound spread to Linda, then Mike, until all three were laughing uncontrollably. Did you see their faces when they spotted your art installation? Linda gasped between laughs. Mike wiped his eyes. Perfect cover story, honey. A sculpture of alien technology, hiding the truth in plain sight. Zira emerged from her hiding place, her crystalline structure vibrating with confusion. I don't understand. The situation was dangerous. Why are you displaying joy? Sarah tried to explain. Sometimes, when scary things happen but turn out okay, laughing helps. It's like telling your body everything's fine now. A psychological coping mechanism, Zira noted, but she sensed there was more to it. Linda approached Zira, her expression softening. It's not just coping, it's celebrating life. We humans, we face scary things all the time. Big ones, like climate change or war, and small ones, like nosy building inspectors. But we choose to find joy where we can. This is why you thrive here, Zira realized aloud. Your species doesn't just endure hardship, you transform it. You find warmth in cold, strength in struggle, and humor in fear. Mike nodded. We have to. Earth isn't just our home, it's our teacher. Everything that makes it dangerous also makes it beautiful. That night, after the family had gone to bed, Zira made a crucial entry in her research log. Previous assessments of Earth as a death world were fundamentally flawed. We categorized it based on physical conditions alone, missing the essential truth. This planet's harsh environment didn't just produce survivors, it forged innovators. Humans don't merely adapt to challenges, they reshape them into opportunities. Their children play in rain that would dissolve my form. Their engineers build homes that withstand forces that would shatter our strongest structures. They turn deadly lightning into power, toxic plants into medicine, and fearful moments into laughter. Most crucially, they've developed something our species has never needed. Resilience not just of body, but of spirit. Their ability to find joy in struggle, to build communities in chaos, and to dream beyond survival sets them apart from any species we've encountered. The real question is not how they survive here, but whether the galaxy is ready for what they'll become when they venture beyond their crucible. Her log entry was interrupted by a soft knock. Sarah stood in the doorway, holding something. I made this for you, she said, presenting a crystal prism she'd obviously crafted herself. Dad helped me get the angles right. When the sun hits it, it makes rainbows, kind of like you. Zira accepted the gift, her form shimmering with an emotion she'd never felt before. As the first rays of dawn created tiny rainbows across the workshop, she understood that she wasn't just studying humanity anymore. She was learning from them. The report that changed everything. After 2 months on Earth, Zira's ship was finally ready for launch. The repairs, though unconventional, would hold, a testament to human ingenuity and Mike's engineering skills. But as she prepared her final report for the Galactic Scientific Council, she faced an unprecedented dilemma. Computer, begin recording. Final assessment of Sol 3, designation, Earth. She paused, her crystalline form shifting through spectrums of thought. How could she convey the truth about humanity without triggering panic among the galactic community? To the distinguished council, she began, I must request an immediate reclassification of Earth and its dominant species. Our current categorization of this world as a death world is not merely inadequate. It represents a fundamental misunderstanding of both the planet and its inhabitants. Through her viewport, she watched Sarah and Mike making final adjustments to the launch site they'd prepared in the workshop. Linda stood nearby, monitoring weather conditions on a primitive device. These humans had become more than research subjects. They had become her teachers. Humanity's mastery of their environment extends beyond mere survival. While their planet exhibits conditions we consider lethal, they have developed not just biological adaptations, but cultural and technological solutions that transform these challenges into advantages. She thought of the storm that had damaged her ship, and how the humans had turned that disaster into an opportunity for connection. Their response to crisis wasn't just practical, it was transformative. Their technological development, while following a different path than our own, demonstrates remarkable innovation. They lack our advanced materials but compensate with ingenious applications of basic principles. Their infrastructure, though primitive by our standards, is extraordinarily resilient, designed to withstand conditions that would destroy our most sophisticated structures. Sarah waved at her through the viewport, holding up a hand-drawn diagram of star systems, her own attempt to map Zira's homeworld. The child's imagination wasn't constrained by what should be impossible. Most significantly, humans possess a characteristic we have no word for in our language. They call it hope, the ability to envision and work toward positive outcomes despite overwhelming evidence of potential failure. This trait, combined with their physical adaptability and technological creativity, makes them unique among known species. A warning light flashed. The launch window was approaching. But Zira had to finish her most important observation. I must emphasize, Earth is not a death world. It is an crucible world, a place where the extreme conditions have forged not just survivors, but innovators. The human's classification as a primitive species is dangerously misleading. They are, in fact, stellar engineers in training, shaped by forces that would destroy most civilizations. Mike gave her the signal. Everything was ready. Zira felt her crystal structure resonate with an emotion she'd learned from humans. Bittersweet. My recommendation to the Council is immediate. We must revise our first contact protocols. Humanity will reach the stars, not because they've overcome their world's challenges, but because those very challenges have prepared them for cosmic exploration in ways we never imagined. They don't fear the void. They see it as their next frontier. Sarah had tears in her eyes as she made the human gesture of farewell, waving. Linda held her daughter close, while Mike stood proud beside his handiwork. They had kept her secret, helped her survive, and taught her more than her centuries of scientific training ever had. Final notation, Zira added, her form glowing with conviction. The question is not whether humanity is ready for the galaxy. The question is whether the galaxy is ready for humanity. These beings, who turn death worlds into cradles of innovation, who face impossible odds with both determination and joy, who dream of stars they haven't reached yet, they will transform our understanding of what's possible. Computer, initiate launch sequence. As her ship rose through Earth's atmosphere, Zira made one last observation. They call their world Earth. We called it a death world. But perhaps we should call it what it truly is, the crucible of hope. The ship broke through the clouds, and Zira watched the blue planet recede. She knew her report would shake the foundations of galactic society. The Council would resist, argue, perhaps even accuse her of being compromised by her experience. But she had learned something from humans. Sometimes the most important discoveries come not from finding what you expect, but from being brave enough to embrace what you don't understand. As she set course for home, Zira accessed one final file, a recording Sarah had given her. It was a simple human song about looking up at the stars and dreaming. And for the first time in her life, the crystalline scientist found herself doing something very human, hoping for a future that seemed impossible, yet somehow, because of that hope, became possible.